Real quick before the video starts, this video is a trigger warning. There is talks of religion and abuse and domestic violence, stuff like that, so just a little heads up. I was 10, maybe 11, and I was a very devout Christian. Not casually or anything like that, I believed. And I prayed every night. I talked to God like he was in the room with me because at the time, I felt like I needed him to be. My home was chaos every night. It was screaming, fighting, doors slamming. It was the kind of yelling that made your chest tight, even when it wasn't you being yelled at because you thought you were next, because the worst part wasn't the noise, it was waiting to see if that anger and that hatred would turn towards me, and waiting to see if tonight was the night something really, really bad happened. Most nights there was no dinner. We'd get home from school like 3:30, 4 o'clock, and my mom would already be passed out drunk. So I'd go to bed hungry, or on the off chance that one of my siblings got dinner for us, that's how it was. During those times, I'd pray. It wasn't any dramatic prayers, just simple ones. Please make this stop. Please fix this, Please let tomorrow be any sort of better. And at the time, I believed someone was listening because I had to, because the alternative was that I was alone. There's one memory that's very vivid and never leaves me. So at the time, my mom was cheating on my dad, and we didn't know that at the time. We were just kids. There was a man at the house. We didn't know who he was, why he was there, why he felt so comfortable. One late night, my dad came home, drunk and angry, and I remember him on the front lawn screaming at God. He was saying, why, looking up, like, why is his wife cheating after so many years? And that stuck with me, because he wasn't yelling at my mom. He was yelling at God. He was begging. He was cursing him. And the man my mom was cheating with ran outside trying to calm him down. It did not work. I didn't really see what happened outside, but I just remember this feeling, like something irreversible was about to happen. I was in the living room, which was right at the top of the stairs. My mom was in the dining room, which was right next to me. He walked up to her, snatched her phone, smashed it against the wall. Pieces everywhere. Tore through the dining room, tore through the office, throwing things, breaking things. My mom screaming at me, a 10-year-old. Call the police. I saw everything. Everything. And when the police left, it was very quiet. It was that kind of quiet, that feels heavier than the screaming. Like no one wanted to talk. There was this huge tension that was just over the room. And I remember picking up the pieces of her phone off the floor and just staring at them. And I remember thinking, where was God? Where was he on the nights I went to bed hungry? And where was he when I was praying for peace? Where was he when my dad was screaming on the lawn? Where was he when I was standing there, 10 years old, watching my family implode and my life fall apart? I had been doing everything right. Praying, believing, trusting. Nothing changed. Nothing stopped. Nothing got better. And people always say things like, God has a plan. God gives his toughest battles to his strongest soldiers, and I'll pray for you. But I was already praying every night. Things were actively falling apart while this was happening. Nothing intervened. No miracles, no comfort. It was just survival. And over time, my faith didn't shatter dramatically. It just thinned out. Like, I stopped feeling hurt. I stopped feeling protected. And eventually, I stopped pretending someone was going to rescue me. And here's the part that people don't like hearing. The day I stopped believing that some old man in the sky was going to save me was the day my life started getting better. Because I stopped waiting. I stopped outsourcing hope. I stopped thinking relief was coming from somewhere else. And I started realizing if I was going to get out of this, it was going to be because of me. Nobody picked me up more than I did, and nobody ever will. That doesn't mean religion is stupid. I have respect for people who have their own religions. It doesn't mean any believers are naive. It just means it didn't work for me, Because when your foundational memories of faith are tied to trauma, it changes the way you see it. Church didn't feel safe for me. Prayer didn't feel powerful, and it felt hollow. And I couldn't force myself to believe something that, in my experience, never showed up. And maybe that sounds angry, but it's not rage. I think it's clarity. I needed stability. I needed safety. I needed food. I needed adults who weren't explosive. And what I got was silence. And at some point, you either double down on belief, or you accept that you are your own safety net. I chose the latter. The last 12 years of my life, I've been actively trying to quiet those memories, trying to move forward, trying to build something stable. And none of that came from prayer. It came from effort, from discipline, and confronting hard things. I refused to become what I grew up around. And that made me feel real. It made me feel like a work in progress. Like I had a little bit of power. When someone says, I'll pray for you, I don't get angry, but internally I think that I've done that. And I did that when everything was collapsing, and it didn't stop anything. What helped was action, growth, self awareness, and, any type of responsibility. That's what changed my life. For some people, religion gives them peace, it gives them a structure and a hope. And I respect that. But for someone like me who begged, begged for anything to get better and got silence, it just doesn't land the same. Faith requires trust, and my trust was broken very early. I don't hate God. I just stopped expecting him. Oddly enough, that made me stronger. Because when I stopped waiting for someone to rescue me, I started building my own corner, my own stability. Maybe religion works for you. Maybe it saved you, but it didn't save me. And pretending it did would be dishonest. I survived because I adapted. I healed because I chose to. And that ownership changed everything. I was only 10 years old, and I was praying for peace. Like, can you believe how that sounds? And now that I'm older, I don't pray anymore. I build what I can.